And well, if you put that all together here, especially from an outside perspective, somebody like us that's an NBA fan that's kind of seeing all the details being put out there, it does appear to be a pretty serious indictment on the LA Clippers and Kawhi Leonard, that the facts kind of trend to them being in the wrong here, that they likely were involved in this somehow, and at least either the LA Clippers, Steve Ballmer, or Kawhi Leonard's camp kind of organized this and knew what they were doing with it to get him additional money. I mean, yes, you can make the argument that the LA Clippers and Steve Ballmer weren't aware of this, that Kawhi Leonard operated independently, again with his camp, Uncle Dennis, doing this with aspiration to not really under the table at that point, but additional money. But if you combine the fact that Ballmer directly invested the $50 million that they pretty much owed Kawhi Leonard, again with how much aspiration paid Kawhi Leonard, at least kind of committed to pay him, $48 million of the $50 million that Steve Ballmer invested in the company, per reports anyway, it's undeniably fishy. Though if you are trying to talk about this and look at this from the Clippers side, after all they are innocent until proven guilty, the main kind of supporter of them and Steve Ballmer does happen to be Mark Cuban, part owner and one-time full owner of the Dallas Mavericks, a guy that would actually benefit from them being punished in this way. You know, he's not the full owner and majority owner of the Dallas Mavericks anymore, but he is still a part owner and a fan of the Dallas Mavericks, who obviously share the same conference with the LA Clippers, so he would benefit if they would be punished. And if you didn't watch episode 2 of Pablo Torre's show after the original indictment on the LA Clippers and following his initial report of it and them potentially being in the wrong here, he had Mark Cuban on to discuss this and why Mark Cuban has been defending them. And if you haven't watched it, I'll try to summarize it here for you, using a few clips from episode 2 of Pablo Torre Finds Out. Basically, Mark Cuban came on and shared his experience with false scams that he's had with companies and why this might be the same thing with Steve Ballmer and the LA Clippers. Again, with them investing in Aspiration, the now bankrupt company that paid Kawhi Leonard, why they would have involvement with them, why they would trust them with $50 million of Steve Ballmer's own money, an additional $30 million that they're credited to Aspiration and therefore had a sponsorship with them, why they would trust them and why they didn't do enough due diligence to see that this was a scam by Aspiration, why they maybe didn't know about the Kawhi Leonard involvement in it, why they aren't a part of him getting paid with it. And again, it pretty much comes down to Mark Cuban not believing that Steve Ballmer is dumb enough to do that he doesn't really have any facts supporting it, that he just thinks that Steve Ballmer is not dumb enough to get involved in an obvious scam or what became an obvious scam, and that he didn't knowingly do it to give Kawhi Leonard money, that this is pretty much what Mark Cuban has to say about it.
So the minute Aspiration was under investigation, I guarantee you, in the immortal words of Charles Barkley, I guarantee it, that the NBA took a hard look at it. And not only that Ballmer, if he did something illicit and under the table and tried to, work around the salary cap, then he's got to be bricks, right? Because at that point in time, he's the dumbest human being on the planet because he trusted these scammers to do something he knew was against all NBA rules. A, I just don't see that happening. B, the NBA would have found it easily. 3, and this alludes to the Steve Ballmer can't be that dumb thing. I mean, I guess and I've been scammed. Everybody's scammable. But in order for this to work, in my opinion, he has to trust that whole company. And at that point in time, he trusted them enough to give them an investment at some level, but I don't see how he would trust.
I just feel like a really smart guy can be so desperate to get a star player that justifies the entire mission of opening a privately funded stadium to compete with the Lakers specifically, who were competing with him. And in fact, when it comes to a bunch of scammers, who maybe he didn't know were scammers in 2021, but clearly saw them as aligned with him on, we're going to help you do what you want, to the point of him helping with business development. The whole idea of, did he have zero idea that these guys that he was dealing with on a day-to-day basis, CCing with the CEO of Intuit, according to emails that we found, is it possible that that guy would have no idea that they were paying $28 million for a no-show job to the guy
Yes.
who was his most valuable employee, while there was also simultaneously in that same timeline a $300 million 23-year contract being struck between the company, Aspiration, and Steve's baby, the Los Angeles Clippers, that also had in the document that we acquired the contractual language. Outs at every turn for him to not do anything. And in fact, none of it was ever reported until today. You're saying that that's plausible to you?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, look, the shit that happened at the Mavs that I had no idea was happening. And people didn't think that that was marginally feasible because you can't pay attention to everything in every deal that you do.
Why did Kawhi Leonard take less money, do you think?
Maybe he had that deal in hand and that was his reason. I don't know.
And that he didn't do it to give Kawhi Leonard money. That's not why he invested $50 million, which eventually 48 became of Kawhi Leonard's payment from Aspiration. That he didn't do that purely for that reason, and that Steve Ballmer was ultimately conned in this situation, which Steve Ballmer actually directly came out and said, not only on social media, but making an appearance with Ramona Shelburne of ESPN. Last night, actually, a one-on-one interview they had together. Steve Ballmer sat down and basically said exactly that he was conned by them, had no idea that they were running a scam and that they were simply trying to gain partnership with the LA Clippers and that they would benefit in that way, that they had no problem with the background of Aspiration and that the due diligence didn't come up in a red flag kind of way in that regard, and simply put, that the man got conned by them.
Let me just repeat, I don't know how much money they gave him.
Well, in the court documents and in Pablo's podcast, they report it was $28 million.
Pablo's podcast, I don't know anything about the court documents on this. I haven't seen them and I don't know. I'm not trying to be, I don't know. I really don't know. But the speculation is what it is. And why did they do that?
It's a lot of money. I mean, $28 million, $7 million a year is a lot of money for a guy that you didn't actually require to do anything.
I don't know why they did what they did, and I don't know how different it is. I really don't. And frankly, any speculation would be crazy. These are guys who committed fraud. How would I be able? Look, they conned me.
You're one of the richest men in America.
They conned me. I made an investment in these guys thinking it was on the up and up, and they conned me. At this stage, I have no ability to predict why they might have done anything they did, let alone the specific contract with Kawhi.
I mean, I'm not going to say it's impossible that he did get conned and directly scammed by the company Aspiration, that he didn't see it coming, and their involvement with Kawhi Leonard was in no way correlated with the LA Clippers and with Steve Ballmer directly, that he didn't have any in-between there with it, that his $50 million investment to Aspiration wasn't to cover the $48 million they eventually gave or promised to give to Kawhi Leonard. Not gonna say that it's impossible that those dots don't align here, but I think it's pretty damn fishy nonetheless. Again, maybe a billionaire like Steve Ballmer, the richest owner in the NBA, did get conned, did get scammed by Aspiration, and again had no in between with it, but I highly doubt it. But I think that'll pretty much do it for this one, and if you enjoyed the video, then I'll greatly appreciate it if you dropped a like, subscribe to the channel if you have not already, and hit that notification bell to never miss out when I upload a video. But as always, thank you for watching and have a great day or night.